Warning, this video contains spoilers for the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. But seriously, if you're watching this and haven't seen Game of Thrones, you're probably doing it wrong.
What is up, everybody? It's Mighty Manotaur here, and today we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones Season 4. I was underwhelmed with this season. Overall. I love the show. I'm a book reader. I'm a elitist book reader douchebag. I think that the books are the way to go, but I will say this. I hadn't read the books until I saw the show. It had been recommended by friends for a long time. I knew that they existed, but they're so long and there were so many other books that I was reading at the time. I just never wanted to take the time and the effort and to go ahead and read them all. So I watched the show. I watched season 1 of the show after it aired via Netflix. We marathoned it. A roommate of mine and I, just over a week, we just watched the whole thing. And after that, I was like, all right, I'm in. So I read the books, caught up to the show before season 3. So during season 2, I was reading the second book, and then I finished the third book before season 3 had aired, and then I've read through all 5 of them now before season 4 had started. So for season 4, I come to it from the perspective of I know where it's going. Season 4 is mostly the latter, and it's not spoiler to say, it's the latter half of book 3 with some book 4 and 5 sprinkled in. And for those of you that haven't read the books, don't know, books 4 and 5 takes place at the same time. They just focus on different characters. So, book 4 is more focused on what's going on, in King's Landing and that kind of stuff. Book 5 is more about what's going on, north of the Wall and with Daenerys and that kind of stuff. But they all take place mostly at the same time. So, I guess before we start talking about specifically of the show, the pros and the cons, the positive and the negatives, I think it's important to take just a brief moment of silence for all of our fallen characters in Season 4 because, dear Lord, a bunch of people died during the season. So let's take a moment of silence as I list our fallen comrades, some of whom will be missed more than others. Joffrey, Tywin, Shae, Oberyn, the Hound, Lysa Arryn, Grenn, Pyp, Donal Hill, Jojen, Ygritte, Carl Tanner, Rast, Ster, Polliver, Rorge, the Biter, Locke, Axel Florent, Raff Kenning, and Megmar Tudoweg, King of the Giants. Thanks. So many people died during this season. Holy crap. And that's kind of the way the books go. It's just, they set up the first one and just dump on you where, Ned dies at the end, and then book 3 with the Red Wedding, huge thing that happens, and then the rest of the books, it's just dropping like flies, man. I'll say not all of the characters that have died in season 3 and 4 die in book 3. Some of them happen later. Not really important to go into that because that enters book spoiler territory, which I'm going to try to stay out of for this. For the record, this is spoiler-free for the books. I may decide to give spoiler stuff, but I'll put that at the end of the video, and I'll make it very clear, hey, I'm going to be talking about spoilers for the books. So don't worry, if you're not a book reader, you don't know what's coming, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil stuff for you. But as the intro spoiler warning said, if you're watching this and haven't seen the show, that's your own fault. So, I guess I don't know the best way to do this. I've seen a lot of videos online that kind of go through biggest moments of season 4, best character deaths of season 4, positives and negatives and that kind of thing. So I think that's the best way to go through. I'm just going to kind of not go through chronologically, but just some of the bigger moments, both good and bad, and then there are a couple things specifically that I wanted to talk about. One really in particular that I'll save towards the end because I have many opinions on it. Some of you probably already know what that scene is. So I guess on the positive side, pretty much every scene that Arya and the Hound had was fantastic. I think that Maisie Williams, the actress that plays Arya, has really grown into the character as the show has gone on. Obviously, when they started, it was 4 or 5 years ago. She was much younger, much less of a developed actor, so she didn't really do as much. And she still seems very minimalistic to me, but it totally fits the character, so I'm really enjoying what she brings. And then the dude playing the Hound as well has been brilliant since day one, so it's really fun to see them together and kind of the relationship that they have formed, which didn't really exist in the books, honestly. They have that big, them going together across Westeros, but they don't form that kind of love-hate relationship. It's that kind of, whatever, Stockholm Syndrome, I guess it is. She just kind of hates him the whole time, and then at the end, leaves him to die, much as she did in the show. Another thing that I really love, like a little specific moment in the episode that was on the wall during the battle, I guess it was the second to last episode? Maybe? I don't remember. But the big scene, like there's a big oneer, like a long oneer, like a one-shot for non-film people, like where it doesn't cut. It's like a big, long, several-minute-long shot, which is super rare in the industry. It's like a 360 shot of the battle. So you're catching up with all the different characters, like, random dudes fighting and one of them dying. Like the Stir the Fen fighting with this guy. Oh, John's over here fighting with this guy. Tormund is fighting this guy, shoves him off the thing, whatever. Sir Mallister is doing, or not Mallister, whatever his name is, the Knight guy. I don't recall, the one that died. So I really loved that shot, and it was funny watching it with my wife, because I got her into the show for season 4. She didn't used to watch stuff like that. Like, she was just very invested in the characters and the situations, and she didn't kind of have that third eye above her, like, that analytical side. And as we're watching it, like, in my mind, I'm going like, this is a really cool shot. And then towards the end of it, she's like, that was an awesome shot. And it made me very happy that I've instilled that ability to look at kind of directorial cinematography kind of things. So that was a fun moment. In general, the whole battle on the wall was great. That episode was really strong. Yeah, we stayed on the wall for the entire episode. And for some people, like, they want to jump back and forth a lot. But I thought it justified, like, it made that battle a huge thing, much like the Battle of the Blackwater was a full episode just for that battle back in Season 2. This was the same. This huge confrontation deserved an entire episode. There was plenty of stuff going on with different characters, but that kind of leads me into kind of a more negative thing. In general, because so many characters died, and because we have so many characters in general on the show, some of the deaths don't have the same impact as they could. Like stuff with Pip and Grant. The Pip one was framed really well with him going with Samwell Tarly. Just that, like, Sam is the brave one in that instance. Like, he's like, we gotta go do this. I'm useless when it comes to this stuff. You're the one that knows how to do it. We need to go do it. And so, Pip's all excited. Then he's like, oh, I killed a guy. And then, arrow through the neck. Was pretty dark, and watching him die, like, in Sam's arms was pretty powerful. But in general, like, especially Jojen's death, that's meaningless. Like, it didn't have any impact because we barely saw that character. I mean, he was near death this entire season. When they get taken captive by, what's his face? The Carl Tanner guy, that character, and the fat guy. The traitors to the Watch, when they're captured by him, like, he's dying just in that instance. And it's kind of like, I don't know, why would you choose to kill him in that way? Is it they want less characters in that for whatever Bran's going to be doing next season with the tree or whatever, the tree guy? Again, I'm not spoiling stuff. Like, I could tell you what it is, but I'm not going to. It felt meaningless to me. And even Ygritte's death was underwhelming, because, like, the whole season, like, she's just pissed the whole season, and then they had their little moment, but then just she's dead, and then they take a whole chunk out of that next episode for Jon to, take her north of the wall and burn her and all that kind of stuff, and it didn't have that kind of impact. And maybe it's just because we didn't see them together for an entire season that love story had kind of gone away a bit. I don't know, it felt kind of forced, like they're forcing us to be emotionally invested in the characters. And that kind of brings me to my next thing. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate from this, particularly from the female demographic. As the show goes on, and we're getting to know the characters more, and me as an actor am getting to see more of the actors and their process and them crafting these characters, the more I'm kind of coming to decide that I don't think Kit Harington is a very good actor. The guy that plays John, I just, like, in the early seasons, it was fine because it was a very understated approach to the character. In this tumultuous world and all of these lords and ladies and all this stuff, he was an outsider. He's more on the quiet side. He's highly intelligent and he thinks, and like I get that side of it, but he just feels like a blank slate to me a lot of the times, and particularly that came out like in that Ygritte scene, and really like now that he kind of took over the battle planning and everything, I just see he just has a blank look on his face all the time. And in the scene he had with the King of the Wildlings, blanking on his name, yeah, that guy. Hopefully you know who I'm talking about. The King Beyond the Wall. The scene that he had with him, like he was just like the whole conversation, and like, oh, he saw this knife, like that was the only change. He just is kind of boring, honestly. So that's kind of bumming me out because that's one of if not, well, not my favorite character, but absolutely one of my favorite characters from the books. Especially places that he goes next, coming up. Little sprinkle of foreshadowing there for you guys to keep watching the seasons. But I still love the character. It's just I don't love that actor anymore, and that's kind of a bummer. And then one of the other big, shouldn't say big, small problems that I had in terms of characterization was for Oberyn Martell, the Red Viper. That was my favorite character in the books. For the little bit of it that he was in, such a fantastic character. Like, he's a huge douche, but like all he wants is justice for his sister and her kids. Like, that's all he wants, justice for his family. And he exists like in this family that we haven't even seen at all, the Martells that are in Dorne, like this place that we've never even seen. So it's cool to have him come in and be that representative of that culture that we haven't experienced. And I like how they're making it more like Spanish influenced, because I think that's pretty neat to kind of, because Westeros isn't a real place. Like, they don't have African Americans, you know what I mean? Like, the dark-skinned people, like they're black or whatever you would say, they're not African Americans because that doesn't exist. It's not a thing. So it's the same with like the Dornish people. There's no direct comparison for how we would see them. They're Dornish. Like, you know, they have a more kind of loose attitude, and you know, they're a little bit darker complexion and that kind of thing. Like, I always thought of them more as like Italian kind of, but Spanish, like, that works too. Not Spanish as in like Hispanic, like Mexican, that kind of thing, but like from Spain, Western Europe area. So that, like, I really like that part of it. But on the show, they really, really played up the fact that he's bisexual. Like, that was his defining characteristic of his personality. And in the show, or in the books, it's like one line that he mentions with Ilaria Sand, his paramour, the chick that he's always with. And like, that was every scene he was in. He was banging a girl and a dude at the same time, like all his scenes. And it was just kind of like, we get it, HBO. Like, good on you for making these gay, bisexual characters, having them towards the forefront. Like, cool, but it's gratuitous at this point. And I mean, it's HBO. They're going to show you lots of boobs and a couple of dicks whenever they get the chance, and tons of blood and violence because they can. It's one of the only networks that can do that, so of course they're going to. It just felt like that's not his defining. There's so many more interesting parts of that character than the fact that he's bisexual. And so to only play up that aspect of him made it kind of disappointing to me as a huge fan of that character. And then the fight that he had with the Mountain was my most anticipated scene from the season. Even more than Joffrey dying, even more than Tywin dying. That was my most anticipated thing, was their fight. And I loved the acting during it. the guy that played Oberyn did a great job of the acting, you killed her, whatever, you killed her, you raped her, murdered her children. I loved that part of it, but the actual fight the way that it was edited, it was hard to tell what was going on. Like, he did lots of jumps and, barrel rolls and flips and that kind of thing, which was cool and a different fighting style than what we normally see. Again, like his Dornish heritage being different than what we see the Westerosi, but it just, it felt underwhelming to me. There wasn't enough contact. It was mostly him jumping away and avoiding the Mountain's strikes. The end of it, holy crap, even to someone that obviously saw it coming, was shocking. Just in, like, how graphic it was. Like, holy crap. That hit pretty hard. But as disappointing as that fight was for me, then the fight between Brienne and the Hound was on the opposite side of that. Holy crap. That was, like, maybe my favorite fight on the show so far. It was just so brutal. Like, there's so much anger in it on both sides, and then once like their swords are down and they're just punching each other and pulling hair and biting and like shoving and rolling in the ground, like it was a dirty ass fight, and I loved the hell out of it. Brienne is such a great character, so it's cool to see that confrontation. That doesn't happen in the books. They don't meet up with the Hound and Arya, but I think they wanted to find a different way for the Hound to die than in the books, because in the books, he gets injured from a fight that they get in, and it slowly just, he just slowly dies, and then Arya leaves him. They wanted to have, I think, a more dramatic ending, because people love the Hound so much in the show. In the books, he's a smaller character. He doesn't do as many of the cool things that he did in the books, so they wanted to keep him around longer and have that relationship explored more, which I'm all for, so I'm fine with that. And the fight that they had was so brutal and so good, so it helped balance out the disappointing fight between Oberyn and the Mountain for me. What else? That's a lot of the big ones. Kind of the biggest problem overall, though, going back to the fact that there are so many characters on the show, that they want to spend as much equal time with all the characters as they can, and I don't think that's feasible. And I think that this season proves that. Because in seasons past, there weren't necessarily significantly less characters. There are definitely more characters now than there were, because, yeah, we're killing off lots of people, but we're introducing more new characters than we're losing old characters, if that makes sense. So, try as they might, they can't give equal screen time to everybody. And that is seen most with Daenerys. In the books, she doesn't do anything. Like, that stuff you see in Meereen of her sitting on that throne, it's the same in the books. She doesn't do shit. And that's why, for a whole book, you don't see her. And they can't go a whole season with us not seeing Daenerys. Besides Jon and Tyrion, she's kind of looked at as the main character of the show. And really, when it comes to the actual War of Thrones, that's who most people are voting for good reason, I mean. But, so you need to give her some screen time, but to keep cutting back to her where it's just her sitting on a throne with people bitching to her about their problems is so boring. And then they throw in the, like, hackneyed plot, like, love story between Missandei and Grey Worm that doesn't exist in the books because it's totally stupid. It's just, like, these two totally minor characters who, to this point, barely serve any purpose. They're just kind of background setting. Like, I get that you want to flesh out the characters. I get that you want to make more characters interesting, but there are already so many damn characters. You kind of have to let some characters go. You kind of have to let some characters be C-tier characters. Not everybody can be an A or B-tier character. It just doesn't work that way. Because then you get scenes like hers where nothing happens. And you get, like, that first episode at the Wall where, like, not a whole lot happened. And even a lot of the stuff with Tyrion during the course of the show, like, it was a lot of twiddling their thumbs after Joffrey died. A lot of twiddling the thumbs with him just, like, sitting in the prison cell. And him and Jaime had a lot of good scenes together, and, like, the speech that he had at his trial was fantastic. Like, holy crap, Peter Dinklage in that speech, just brilliant. But overall, it was a very uneven season in general. There were plenty of highs, but also plenty of, like, lulls and characters that we didn't need to see. And even, like, the Joffrey death was a little foreshadowed to me. And granted, I knew it was coming, but it felt kind of heavy-handed. And just the acting surrounding it felt awkward. Like the chick that plays Cersei, Lena Headey, like I think she's a good actress, but what she did after his death, like it just felt awkward to me. Like it didn't feel real. It didn't feel like a real emotion coming from her. And then everyone else is just kind of like the whole time. And I feel like people would be freaking out a little bit more than just being stunned. Though I did love Sigur Rós, one of like my favorite bands. They did that's them like playing like they're playing Reigns of Castamere at the beginning, that song like with the guy with the whatever that accordion, that's the name of it. Too many Game of Thrones things, I can't think of other things. But that's actually them like playing that and singing that, and that was a really cool thing. And then Joffrey throws food at them, which I thought was funny. But those are kind of my big things about that. One huge new thing that as a book reader I was like, what? Was this little scene that we got with the White Walkers where they get the baby and there's like a council of White Walkers and they look like Sith. Like they look like Darth Maul, like with the horns. Like they look like it's Zabrak is the name of that race. Star Wars nerd. But like that council where they like touch the baby and it turns into White Walker. What the hell was that? That's not in the books at all. I was like, what? And so a lot of the storylines, particularly like Bran's storyline at the end of the season, that's just about as far as it is by the end of book 5. So next season, we're going to be seeing stuff that book readers haven't read yet. And that, on one side, is kind of exciting because even book readers will be surprised. But on the other side, people that have been reading these books for so long and are so invested in the books, they're going to have the books spoiled for them by the show. And that's not what I would want. I would rather read the book first and then see how the show adapts the book. Not watch the show and then read the book that gives you a little bit more information. So that's kind of So, one of the big questions that a lot of people had afterwards that I answered online was about the silver coin that Arya gives the boat master at the end. Like, what is that coin? They didn't really do a good enough job of setting that up. That's the coin that the face changer, like the assassin guy, Jakar, I think his name, Jaharis, Dohar, something like that. I can't remember his name. But the guy that changes his face is the assassin guy that he gives her. And, it says Valar Morghulis, which in Braavosi means all men must die. And says, hey, whenever you're in trouble, give this coin to all Braavosi and it'll help you out. You're not supposed to really know what that means yet. Obviously, that's going to be next season as Arya is heading towards Braavos. But that's what that coin was. A lot of people were like, what, she just gave him? What was that iron coin? I don't even know what that is. That's what that is. I'm not going to spoil it for you and say like what's going to be going on with that, but that is an important thing. And if you don't remember, not only was the assassin guy Braavosi, but her dancing master, back when she was getting trained in swordsmanship in King's Landing, he was a Braavosi as well. So kind of the two like biggest Braavosi that we've seen have been pretty big badasses. So Braavosi are badasses. Just know that. Cool stuff's going to be coming up with Arya next season, just to teach you guys a little bit more of what's coming up on the show. Last thing I want to talk about, and I saved it for last because hopefully I want to get through it quickly and not spend too much time on it. The stuff between Jaime and Cersei. Particularly the quote-unquote rape scene that happens when Joffrey is dead on the table next to them. Now, I don't want to go into the whole rape culture thing because don't want to go into the political side of things in this video or any video on my channel. But there have been tons of people that freaked out over that and were like, this is so offensive, and how could you have this kind of rape scene on the show? And even later, like when Jojen and Mira and Bran got captured by the Night's Watch betrayers, like they were threatening rape on Mira. In the background of the scenes that were happening in Craster's house, they were like straight up raping chicks in the background. And they're like, this is tasteless, HBO. Why would you do this to have rape be in the background? Like, if you're gonna use it and make it meaningful, fine, but this isn't meaningful. I get that, okay? Obviously, I'm not a woman. I've never been raped. Hopefully I never will be. I can't speak to a woman's mindset that lives in a world in fear of being raped, because I don't understand that, and I never will. so I can't speak to that. But for the people that are freaking out about there's so much rape in the show, yes, there is. That's it. Like, yes, there is a lot of rape in the show. In this world, women are treated like objects. That doesn't make it good. The people, like the show creators, aren't saying that this is a good thing. It's clearly a bad thing. But that's the world that this exists in. It's not modern America. You can't bring your modern political opinions and apply them to this fantasy show that exists back in time in this not existent place. Patton Oswalt has a actually really good bit about it in one of his stand-up sets about him going to see an old Western movie and there being a woman sitting next to him. Like, as the credits open, there's like a woman washing stuff and doing all the housework and sweeping, and like the men are sitting there like twirling their guns and smoking, that kind of thing. She's like, oh yeah, sure, just have the women do all the work. Like, that's fine, of course. Like, yes, that's what life was like back then. Women were not treated fairly. That's like how do you have that mindset that because we're fighting for more equal rights for women now, that back then they were too? They weren't. That's how we ended up where we are now, where a lot of women aren't being treated equally. Even look at third world countries. They're still in that mode of time, like way back in the past, in terms of how they treat women. And it's wrong. It is straight up wrong. No one's arguing that. But that's how things were back then, and that's how things are in Westeros. Women are treated like objects. It's bad, but that's the way it is. Like, yes, Jaime started out raping Cersei, and that is messed up. Not just for him to do it, but to do it to his sister also, next to their dead son. That's wrong, and it's messed up, and makes you not like Jaime as much. So what? So what? You don't need to love Jaime. Like, he's a bad person, and he's trying to redeem himself, and he has positive qualities, but that doesn't, like, it's not a night and day thing that when he said, okay, you know, Brienne, you go rescue the Stark girls, they don't deserve to die, I'm gonna go help my brother out. He's not just magically an angel and a great human being, he's still banging his sister. That's gross. Like, he's still a selfish dude doing selfish things. Like, so all these people that are freaking out, like, this is so wrong, like, this taints the show, how could you have that, because it makes me not like Jaime. Like, so what? Where in the show is it like, if you're watching this, you must like Jaime? Nowhere. If you don't like him now, fine. Don't like him. You're allowed to not like him. Does it make Cersei a bit of a victim there? Absolutely. Does it make her kind of dark that eventually she enjoys it? Absolutely. Does it make it not rape that eventually she likes it? No, it's still rape, obviously. If it starts out as rape, even if she likes it towards the end, it's still freaking rape. No one's arguing that. But to say that, like, it's wrong just because it's on the show, that's so dumb. Like, they're obviously making a statement about the characters with that. They don't need to be making a statement about society as a whole. This is a character-based show. This show does not exist to further political agendas in our world. It's a fantasy show. And that goes for, like, the rape that's happening in the background of Craster's house, too. Yes, like, it's in the background. That's so messed up. Yes, it is. It is messed up. That's the whole point, that these guys aren't even thinking twice about doing it. That's so wrong. So, why would you not root for the characters that are so against that? Like Jon. He's such a just, human, good person character. So put more of your energy into him that is so against that. And like Sam. Sam is very clear when he drops off Gilly at Molestown. Like, she's not a whore. Don't treat her like one. Don't let her bang men for money. That is, I'm not allowing her to do that. There you go. There's your positive rape message. Like, I don't know what you people want from... Like, it's like people just decide to be offended by anything that happens, and they're like, nope, I'm offended. That's it. I just am. I cannot be reasoned with or cannot see anything from a different perspective. So, whatever. I just spent way more time than I wanted to on that, so I apologize, but I couldn't help it. That stuff annoys the crap out of me. Rape is a terrible, terrible thing, and it is great that we're paying more attention to that and more attention to women's rights when it comes to those kinds of things. But don't, just because there is a rape that happens on a show doesn't make that bad. It happens in life, so it can happen on TV too. I don't get it. But that's my Game of Thrones Season 4 review. Overall, I thought it was the weakest season. That doesn't make it bad. I still am loving the show. It just felt really uneven. I wish we could have spent more time with certain characters and less time with others. But yeah, I'm really excited for where the show is going to be going. It's going to be going in a lot of crazy places. It's already set up with, who the hell knows where Tyrion's going. We know Arya is going to Bravo, so that's going to be a whole new place that we get to see. Eventually, something's got to happen with Daenerys, right? She can't sit on that throne forever. Things are going to be complicated with Jon now that Stannis is, there with him on the wall. The whole Night's Watch takes no part in the battles of, kings. They can't help it now. The king is getting involved in their battle, so that's going to be exciting. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and the review. Let me know what you thought about the season. If you agree or disagree with anything I said. I can't say let's stay away from the whole rape thing talk because I spent a good chunk of time talking about that. So if you have any reactions to that, let me know. Whatever. I'm definitely not going to be getting involved in any political arguments in the comments. So don't waste your time if you're going to be like, you're such a misogynist, because I think I'm making it pretty clear that that's not the perspective that I'm having. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and enjoyed Game of Thrones. I'm excited for next season, and it's going to be a really long-ass wait to Season 5, and probably an even longer wait to Book 6. So don't die, George R.R. Martin. Write the damn books. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.